Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. My name is Brandon Drum. I'm here with Parker Thune, and also a happy Memorial Day weekend to everybody. I hope everybody's getting to spend time with family. See, the background's changed for me. I'm at the lake. I'm in our one of the rooms.
Flex
here at the
on 'em.
house. Huh?
Flex
it's a
on
weird-
them.
Yeah, I'm not really flexing. It's one of the rooms. I don't know even how to describe this room. So I'm in one of the guest rooms. Anyways, yeah, happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody. Oklahoma, we are recording this on a Saturday night. Oklahoma just lost to the Oklahoma State Cowboys 9-3 in the Big 12 title game. But we will talk about that in a bit. Whatever it may be, Oklahoma's going to be fine. So we'll discuss that here in just a minute. But first, we need to pay some bills, Parker.
That we do. This episode of the OU Insider Under the Visor podcast, folks, is brought to you by Manscaped. And fellas, blink if you haven't purchased a Father's Day gift yet. Yeah, I thought so. Well, maybe your pops has had a bush since the 70s, and that's okay because our friends at Manscaped have crafted the total package for his special day, whether it's for the boys downstairs, his beard, or even the best pair of underwear out there. Manscaped has all his bases covered. You know that beard trimmer that your dad's been using since you were in grade school? Yeah, it probably needs upgrading. Introducing the Beard Hedger Pro Kit, the complete beard maintenance kit for all the bearded kings. This all-in-one kit comes with a beard hedger, Manscaped's most advanced beard trimmer, as well as shampoo, conditioner, oil, and balm for his beard. It also comes with a brush, comb, and scissors so he can style his beard and mustache like the true gentleman he is. And if he carries a lot of body hair like most dads do, you're in luck with the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra. This bad boy is designed with fathers in mind, featuring the signature Lawnmower 5.0. And that set of underwear he got for Christmas a decade ago definitely needs upgrading. And what better way than with Manscaped's Boxers 2.0? You can get all of this and much more, 20% off, and with free shipping thrown in as well when you use the code OU Insider at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com when you use code OU Insider. Never forget where you came from, if you know what I mean. Happy Father's Day from Manscaped.
All right. I was out on the 70s Bush part. I was like, click, don't see my face, muting the mic. I was out. I'm out.
I don't know who writes that ad copy, but man, it gets tawdrier and tawdrier every single time, doesn't it?
They just like press the limits. But anyways, all right. I almost said speaking of 70s Bush, but then I just like there's no transition
there.
from there.
Don't try to force a segue either. That has the potential to take us down a very bawdy path.
All right. But on a better, more positive note, softball won their supers versus Florida
Not
State.
shocking there.
Nope. I have to say something, man.
What's that?
We're in the group text. I sent those screenshots. Media alike and fans alike, Florida State, grow up. Like, bend over, take the ass beating that you're going to take every time you play OU, and smile about it. Grab your ankles and smile.
Oh,
That's what you need to do. Because I was reading like just the things they were saying about the girls and Gasso and the state in general. Like, when you have to get personal and make up just bullcrap things to say about players and coaches and the state because their team is beating yours, and was it 4 years in a row that they beat them? Something to that extent, and knock them out 4 years in a row. Just take it, smile. You knew what was going to happen when you showed up.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
I
come
get
on.
I,
Like I just get tired of like it. Could you imagine media from Oklahoma coming out and publicly personally saying negative things about coaches and players just because you were upset about what was going on during the game? You were supposed to be a media person,
that's true. That's true.
not a
And
child.
it media saying it versus fans saying those types of things, it's those are two very, very different things, two entirely different things. I
Right.
get it. Fans are going to talk. Fans chirp on message boards. Fans say stupid stuff. Because, look, when there's a degree of anonymity afforded to you on an internet message board, you're not accountable for anything you post, Brandon.
No.
So people
The man
legitimately speak their
upstairs sees it
minds.
though.
They'll speak their minds no matter how bizarre or how offensive the thought on their minds happens to be. But I think what's refreshing in OU's case is that they're going to be hoisting another trophy at the end of the season in all likelihood. Knock on wood, don't want to jinx
Yeah,
anything.
don't
But
jinx them. Please don't.
look, they're
Four
the
Pete would be for
they're the three-time defending national
what?
champions. They're the very clear favorite going into Oklahoma City. They're on top of the world, and they could care less about the noise. And I think that's the great thing. Or I should I should clarify. Some people get very, very offended when I use those particular words. Maybe I should say I couldn't care less. Functionally, they mean the same thing, but
It
uh,
drives me nuts when somebody says I couldn't care. I could care less because could you
it's what
care
I've
less?
always said.
It's I
What
couldn't.
I'm getting at is the same. What I'm getting at is the same. And
That's the
Patty
one thing
Gasso and
I
this
could beat
team,
you on grammatically there. It's because that drives me up a wall.
Patty Gasso and her team have been immune to the noise over
They
the
have.
last 3 years. And shoot, you can go back further than that. But this team, especially this group of seniors, man, they've been so immune to pressure and distractions and anything that could possibly take away from the product that they put on the field. It is spectacular night in and night out. And they're playing their best ball right now.
No, they are. The bats are finally getting hot. Um, I I think it's funny. Like I still think it's funny how, and they've had to answer for this for years. By the way, how they get so people in the world of sports that aren't OU fans or cover the OU team and know them exclusively get so mad about their emotional celebrations just with a walk. But I have to tell you, I think if other programs did that, they might be more successful because there's something to be said for rollover and positivity. Your positivity is a little bit it's contagious. It's
And it's okay
contagious.
to be who you are as long as you're not
Yes.
showing up the
Yes.
opposition, man. It is
And
okay
they
to let your
aren't.
personality
Yes.
shine through. And to her credit, Patty Gasso is the most even keel, stone faced, hand on the
She
tiller
is.
imaginable. But she doesn't make all her players operate the exact same way that she does in that regard. And again, I think that's why OU softball has been so successful, is because every single member of that program has the freedom to be exactly who they are, not only outside the lines, but
Mhm.
within them. And I will add this. Here's a fun little anecdote that I think illustrates just how much of an institution OU softball is. Thursday night, I'm down in Dallas for a graduation celebration. My twin cousins just graduated high school. They're going to Texas Tech next year. And so a whole bunch of the family is in
Sand
town. So,
Aggies.
yeah, Sand Aggies, exactly. And uh, we're all sitting around after dinner. And I tell you, man, Texas Tech is playing in the Big 12 baseball tournament. You would think that's what would be on the TV in a room with uh, two girls that are going to Texas Tech, a bunch of adults that went to Florida State, Louisiana Tech, Ohio University, like everywhere under the sun but OU. There's no OU affiliation in the room whatsoever, save for me and my parents. And those people made the conscious choice to not only turn the OU softball game on, but continue to watch it wire to wire. And
Hmm.
just in awe, like verbally expressing their awe over the tour de force that Patty Gasso and her program have been on over the last few years. And obviously that's the night they end up run ruling Florida State. And one of my relatives turns to me and goes, man, they're inevitable, aren't they? Because of course, if you've watched softball, it particularly over the last 5 seasons or thereabouts, OU is the titan of collegiate softball. That's unquestioned. They're on a different level. Nobody measures up to them. Nobody stacks up to them. And so I just think that was a cool moment for me because like none of these people have any like they don't care about OU. They don't even really care about softball. I mean, my twin cousins, one of them played softball, so they're all kind of casual softball fans, but they're not that big on OU. They're not that big on softball. But guess what? OU softball's on the TV, so they're watching it.
That is really cool. And to your point on that, we're here in Arkansas at Lake Hamilton, and again, my family, father-in-law's from South Africa. Mother-in-law couldn't care less about any sport known to man. And neither could any of my wife's siblings. She is the lone sports fan out of all of them. But we're all watching, sitting there watching. And it's impressive. Like they're all sitting there going, my God. Like they just seem to kill everybody. And you brought up the last 5 years, and that was something I was going to touch on. COVID hit. Oklahoma was 20-4. We went, Kaden and I, my oldest, went and looked at the roster of that 2020 team. That was a stupid roster. And they were young. Not only
I
that,
maintain if that season had played out, I would go to my
they
grave
win
saying
the
it.
national title
I think they
without
win the
question.
national title. I think they do.
Yes. Juarez is a senior pitcher at that point. She's the pitching coach, the assistant pitching coach at OU now. And
not only that,
they had
I
lost
think they win the
previously
national
the
title. I
back-to-back
think
years
OU
in the
baseball wins the national title that year too. I bet you OU pulls off the diamond sweep in 2020
That
if
is
that
just
season had been able to play out.
crazy. It is crazy. And previously, you look back, 6 of the last 10 years, Oklahoma's won the national title. And on top of that, I think it was 2018, 2019, Oklahoma lost in the Women's College World Series to Florida State and UCLA. I think UCLA was in the national title, or Florida State was in the national title. UCLA was the semis, was it? Or were they both national title? I can't remember. I know Oklahoma made a run. But that, again, shows the dominance of what Oklahoma's been, because you see the wall that they pulled. It's like a celebration. Every time they win a super, they go and they pull the wall from center field and they bring it to home plate and they pat on it and they add another number, another year to it. You look at those years, it's like 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 20. It's like, what can they be stopped? Obviously, they didn't win all of them, but let's say you win 7 out of 11 chances. That means you've won 66%, 67% of the time, something to that extent. That is an absurd percentage of national titles in the last 11 seasons.
Well, and here's what's even more impressive to consider, Brandon, is that there's as long as Patty Gasso wants to continue coaching, there's no end in sight.
No,
because now you have all the more reason for the elite recruits nationally to choose to play
transfers.
softball at Oklahoma. 3 straight national titles, sure, that speaks volumes in and of itself. But guess what? You get to play in a state-of-the-art softball stadium, far and away the best facilities in the nation at this point in the sport of softball. If you have the option between Oklahoma and literally any other school, if you're getting recruited by the University of Oklahoma, are you going to say no to Oklahoma at this point?
Probably not. That's probably why they have the number 1 class every year too. And you look at it, I mean, oh my gosh, what transferred to Florida and won the SEC Player of the Year?
Jocelyn Erickson.
Jocelyn Erickson was a DH last year, right? As a freshman.
Uh-huh.
They were going to play her at first base this year, and they were probably going to make Sanders the DH and have Kinsey Hansen be the catcher her last season, and then move Erickson to catcher her last 2 seasons at Oklahoma. She didn't want to wait. She wanted to go play catcher. she transfers from the University of Oklahoma. I think she had 10 or 11 home runs as a freshman.
Mhm.
And she goes off and becomes the SEC Player of the Year. Like, if that isn't just another little feather in Gasso's cap that somebody they transfer from Oklahoma and they become the best player in the SEC. Like, that
Well,
says everything. And you've got Pickering, right? And who's the other freshman that's really good?
Ella Parker.
Parker. Oh my God. And they're not even close. They got girls on the bench that would be starting everywhere else.
Here's what's hilarious to me. I was having a conversation with somebody that's got some pretty good softball insights last week, and they're like, they said Patty Gasso makes it clear to every single member of that team, I will win with you, I will win without you. And that right there is the reason that Jocelyn Erickson can walk in the offseason, transfer somewhere like Florida, have an amazing season, win SEC Player of the Year honors, and yet nobody is missing her at Oklahoma because Oklahoma is just as good without her as they would have been with her.
Well, that would have been better with her. Let's not get it
By
twisted,
what, a
man.
game, maybe two?
Um,
If you're the best team in college softball, do you need to be any better?
I mean, I get what you're. Trust me, I get what you're saying. I how many did how many home runs did Jocelyn Erickson have this year? 20?
20 something.
21?
Yeah.
Okay, she's more than a game or two. I'm sorry. Like, she's probably 3, 4. Like, she's good. Man, she's good. Come on. She's good. You add that to your lineup, you don't pitch around. You probably put her right between Burrito and um oh my gosh. Um Holy crap, I just went blank, dude. Um Burrito pitches, I guess Parker, Burrito and Parker.
Yeah. Parker
Um
bats third, Brito bats
yep.
cleanup.
Yeah, Parker. So you push Burrito back to the 5th, and then you got Kinsey Hansen. Your 1 through 6th is automatically one of the greatest 1 through 6s of all time. And that's saying something because Oklahoma had the greatest 1 through 6 the previous 3 seasons. So I don't know, man. Like that, the transfer portal, I think, is what makes Gasso even greater because all these girls that go in there like, oh, I'm really good. I had an amazing year. I've developed way better. And Gasso's like, come on over here. I'll develop you a little bit better and you'll win a national title over here. And that's what happens. And so I think those that think Oklahoma's going to have like this steep drop off after those seniors leave, I'm here to tell you they're still going to be top 5, top 10, if not better than that, because they've got girls waiting on the bench. They've had the number 1 class in the country, I don't know how many years in a row. And this thing called the transfer portal that Patty Gasso has already perfected and brought in that has helped them win 3 straight national titles is still out there for her. We have no idea who's going to hop in the portal. But what we do know is that whoever hops in the portal is going to come in and they're going to win because they're at
Well,
Oklahoma.
correct. And that right there, that hits the nail on the head. If you are a competitor and you want to win, and that is what's most important to you, you're going to the University of Oklahoma.
Yep. Yep.
And a lot of the best softball players in the world want to win. And that's the reason why they're as good as they are, is because more than anything, they care about winning.
And the other thing, lastly, on this softball issue, Oklahoma's dominance has taken softball to another level in popularity too. I think it's the personalities, honestly, like Lauren Chamberlain, right? Jocelyn Allo, Kehlani Ricketts was the first big personality, and I think you look at that and you see everything that has just transpired from 2010 to now. The fact that one, and everybody wants to harp on this. Well, Oklahoma has an advantage because the Women's College World Series is in Oklahoma City. Come on. It's been in Omaha forever. Why isn't Creighton and Nebraska winning national titles all the
Exactly.
time? Let's
It
not
only
do this.
becomes a home field advantage once you get there.
Yeah.
And
And,
getting
and
there's the hard part.
that is the hard part. And here's the thing. The fact that Oklahoma has opened their arms up and created a 20,000 seat or 15, 20,000 seat stadium is why it's there. Oklahoma 40, 50 years ago decided they were going to invest in softball before it even took off, and it paid off because now it's one of the biggest college sports that there is out there. It's fun to watch. Everybody's there, and I think Oklahoma being who they are, in being in the market that they are, obviously a professional market with the Thunder around, has really taken it to another level and allowed the sport of softball to grow just at a massive level. And I'm excited about it. Thursday it starts. I always take my kids there. I cannot wait. It is going to be fun. I know you will be watching the boys, the baseball program, and let's roll over into that. They won the Big 12 title in the regular season.
They did not win the Big
They
12
did
title
not
in the
win.
tournament.
Oklahoma State is like the thorn in Oklahoma side in like every sport except for men's basketball this year. And I guess women's basketball. Basketball. That's it. That's it. Softball,
Man,
they were the thorn in Oklahoma side. Baseball, thorn in Oklahoma side.
football,
I don't Football,
certainly.
thorn in Oklahoma side. I mean, it's just been one of those years. And ironically, it's all of Oklahoma's dominance in every one of those sports, right? Throughout the history of Bedlam just kind of gets washed away because Oklahoma State has the last win before they head off to the SEC.
Well, in Oklahoma State
In
fans'
Oklahoma State's
minds,
mind,
yes,
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 in
yes,
Oklahoma
yes.
State's mind, that's my
As
point.
they see it, that's all that's going to matter. But
Yes.
obviously, we see the whole picture, and I think
You're just
most.
looking at history. The past doesn't matter, Parker. That's
Well,
always
let's
the
see
comeback.
what happens in the postseason with those two baseball programs because I'd be willing to bet pretty decent money that OU goes further than Oklahoma State. But yeah, Oklahoma State wins the Big 12 tournament championship 9-3 in the final over the Sooners. What's funny is, and this again goes back to the oddity of the Big 12 tournament schedule / format, is that
So stupid.
OU and Oklahoma State had the same number of losses over the course of the tournament. They both lost once, but Oklahoma State's your tournament champion. OU comes in
So
second. They're the
why? Like I
because
still there should be it should be a double like this is such a cop out by the Big 12. Such a cop. It's they didn't they have an excuse like they were trying to get it over before Sunday
which to be
because
fair,
they previously had done that, but they previously did that because wasn't it what happened that caused
it was
them to
the
have to do
tornado
that?
and more,
Yeah. So that set precedence because there was a tornado.
I guess. Which hey, look, OU just competed in their last Big 12 event ever. So it's officially behind us, Brandon. The Big
It
12
is.
era is over. The SEC era officially begins July 1st, but unofficially, it begins today.
So that was the last event for OU in any
Yeah,
sport, right?
straight up, any sport. That's it.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Yeah, and look,
You don't win, who cares? You're in a better conference. I think that's at the end of the day, you want to be associated with greatness, and that's what the SEC is.
yeah, and I think, man, there is so much riding on this postseason baseball wise for Oklahoma heading into the SEC, not necessarily in terms of their ability to compete because they're going to compete in the SEC. I'm thinking more in the area of fan support and attendance because as we've talked about on this podcast, Brandon, in the SEC, more often than not, you go on the road to a place like LSU or Mississippi State or Arkansas, that stadium's going to be packed to capacity. And it's a different ball game. Oklahoma set an attendance record, single game attendance record earlier this year against Texas when they had 4,000 and change at a baseball game. That's nothing in the SEC. That's nothing. And so naturally, again, and this is a theme we've discussed, is that if you want to have fan support at the University of Oklahoma and you want to get people showing up to your games, you got to win, and you got to win big. That's the reason OU softball has a packed house every single time they're at Love's Field, is because when people see greatness, when they have an opportunity to witness a historic team, a historic coach, a historic program in action, they're going to do that. And obviously, like win one national championship in baseball before we start talking about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Like it's two entirely different conversations with
Yes,
baseball and
yeah,
softball right now. But
yes.
the point remains, you have to build a foundation. And Oklahoma softball is the institution that they are today because that foundation has been in the process of being steadily built upon since the dawn of the 21st century. And for OU baseball, I think you started to see that foundation built in 2022 when the Sooners kind of made a surprise run to the College World Series, end up coming up just shy of a national championship. The difference is nobody saw it coming in 2022. Nobody that did show up to watch that OU baseball team in 2022 until probably the latter half of the month of April was thinking, oh, this team can go a long way. In 2024, this team is not sneaking up on anybody. They're in all likelihood going to be a top 8 national seed on Monday. They're probably going to host a regional. And if you can do something with this, if this can be the launch pad, if you can go dominate your regional, win a super, get to Omaha, let the chips fall where they may at that point. But if you can use this as your launch pad from a competitive standpoint to emphasize to your fans that heading into the SEC, we are here to compete at the highest level and you need to come see the product that we're putting out there on the diamond, then that's going to be huge for the future of OU baseball because the more support you have, guess what? At least, and especially as far as the BMDs are concerned, the more money is going to be forked over towards upgrades for that program, which OU baseball also is in need of. Because if you want to keep pace, you want to keep up with the Joneses in the SEC, you need to have more facilities wise than what OU has at present.
Yeah, and I think let's rewind back to that 2022 and the college World Series national championship.
Okay.
You were there.
I was.
If you want to see what SEC baseball is like, look at the crowd difference between Ole Miss and Oklahoma in attendance there. I remember thinking, like, because me and my family almost drove up to that.
Really?
Look, yes, because I don't cover the baseball team. I don't cover the softball team. I don't cover basketball or anything. I cover football and recruiting. So football is something that you take your fandom out of, you take everything out of, and you have to be somewhat neutral to it. With all of that, being that we do cover Oklahoma, it is called OU Insider. I did grow up in Oklahoma. I grew up an OU fan. I will admit that. I do allow myself to be a fan of those sports that I do not cover because that's part of the gig. I mean, that's how it has to work. The ones you cover, I do not. But I wanted to go up with my family. And ironically, we ended up going up to Omaha later on for 7-on-7. But it was like the weekend after. And I took my kids to the former Rosenblatt and all that. But I remember talking to them on the way up there and just reminding them, like, that sucked for OU because, as you pointed out earlier, they surprised everybody by making it there. Ole Miss had been one of the top teams in the country the whole year. They should have won it the previous season, but everybody got hurt, so they all came back. They did not go pro. They finished out their college careers at Ole Miss, and they ended up winning the national title. They were a great team, like really good major league. They were essentially a minor league team that year, and Oklahoma went toe to toe with them. And because Oklahoma had just, I mean, Peyton was there. Trying to think, who else was on that team that was just phenomenal that year? couple of rollovers that are still there in 2024.
Very
But
few holdovers, which again, that's a remarkable aspect of it all. Is Skip
yes,
just
that's the
reloads,
other thing.
man.
Was yeah,
Skip just
yep,
reloads.
he does.
But yeah,
It
Peyton Graham was the star for that
he was
baseball
Graham.
team.
Peyton Graham was amazing.
Tanner Treadaway was spectacular.
He was
John
awesome.
Spikerman as a freshman really played a key role down the stretch. A couple
Oh my
guys that are
gosh,
no
the
longer there.
quarterback pitcher,
Cade Horton.
Cade Horton. My God, he was so fun to watch in high school, by the way, baseball and football. He like you could tell like if he would have put just an ounce of effort and mental capacity into football, he would have been able to play at the Division 1 level. Just now, like he was so gifted. If you went and watched him throw, like you knew he could play P5 quarterback. You knew it. Didn't take long for you to see it the second you watched him throw.
No, he ended
And
up a
all
top 10 MLB draft pick.
yep, there you go.
Worked
There you
out
go.
all right for him.
Yep. He got hot. That is somebody that made himself some money on that run, by the way. He got hot.
Yeah, and
during
that's
that stretch.
I think that's one of the things that it's gonna take for Oklahoma to go deep again this year is they gotta have some arm that emerges in the postseason because they have an awesome ace right now in Braden Davis. He spun a 4-hit shutout against TCU on Thursday, 9 strikeouts, went the distance. Really, for the last month and a half, 2 months, he has been spectacular pretty much every time out. That is the guy that OU knows that they can lean on. He
And when
is
did he
your
pitch?
A1. Not
Thursday,
Thursday. Wednesday. It was
He
Wednesday
pitched
against
Wednesday.
TCU.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I guess I've been asked this question on Twitter already. And we kind of talked about it off air. And you said, let's talk about this on the podcast.
Yeah.
So explain to everybody why they did not pitch him tonight after 4 days rest.
Well, because that's 2 days rest, first off.
2 day, I guess Thursday, Friday. Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's Saturday night, so I guess it'd be essentially 3 days rest.
It's
I know
considered
that's
2 days
early.
rest in the baseball world. It's just the days between starts. So if he would have started today, he would have been on 2
It's
days
normally
rest.
5-day rotation, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
He pushed 120 pitches
I
on
remember
Wednesday.
yeah.
So they were just, I mean, and credit to Skip Johnson because Davis had the hot hand. Skip realized that he could just eat up the innings and he wouldn't have to go to his bullpen at all. And he let it happen. Unfortunately, come Thursday, Kyson Witherspoon only gets you 4 innings. You got to go to the bullpen early. And then on Friday, in what turns into a slugfest against Kansas, Brendan Girton lasts all of 1 inning.
Yeah, well, he's
1
in the
inning.
second inning. Yeah, that's right.
Well, 1+, I suppose. But your bullpen has to go 8 innings on Friday, and that did not set Oklahoma
1 inning,
well
2
up
batters,
yeah.
to be exact.
that did not set Oklahoma up well for the Big 12 title game against Oklahoma State because it was a bullpen game, and everybody knew that that's what it was going to be. And Oklahoma State was facing the same predicament, so Oklahoma wasn't dealing with anything that the opponent wasn't. But even so, had to go with Carter Campbell making his first start of the year. He's been used exclusively out of the pen. He was really solid in the 4+ innings that he worked tonight. And I think when I look at what Campbell did tonight against Oklahoma State and what Grant Stevens did, we're recording this Saturday night, by the way, it'll go live Sunday. But when you look at what Campbell did tonight against Oklahoma State, and you look at what Grant Stevens did in relief on Friday against Kansas, he went 5 1/3 scoreless.
Mm-hmm.
Those two guys, I think the performances that they turned in the Big 12 tournament lends you some confidence that one of them can be your Cade Horton this year. And maybe Cade Horton isn't the best example because he was the best pitcher in Omaha that year. So I don't think either one of those guys is going to be that. But they could be your David Sandlin, right? Who was another guy that emerged late in the season for Oklahoma in 2022 and really helped solidify the back end of their rotation behind Jake Bennett and Cade Horton. So if one of those guys, and you're going to need to probably use one, if not both of them more than you have to this point, and they're going to need to be able to go deeper for you. But if one of those two guys can become a third starter, and even if it's only a third starter that gets you 5 innings and then he's tapped out, that's great, man, because at that point, I don't think Oklahoma has any conspicuous weakness. The rotation's solid, anchored by Davis. The bullpen is deep. I question whether Oklahoma truly has a shutdown arm. I think Ryan Lambert has shown flashes of that, but the bullpen is deep with guys that can get you outs. And this offense has just generally been spectacular all season and didn't have a great showing Saturday night. They missed some opportunities. They struck out a lot. They were just missing pitches and did not cash in a couple of key situations where you would like to bring runners across. They had guys on second and third with no outs in the eighth inning, and they died there. So those are the opportunities you're going to need to cash in on in Omaha if you want to go claim a national championship. But all the pieces are there to do it, man, especially if Stevens and or Campbell can be that third guy that you can lean on.
Yeah, they luckily for them, I think they're going to probably be what 7, 8, probably as far as the top 8 is.
D1 baseball had them projected at number 7 before the loss to Oklahoma State. A lot of those top teams lost at least once this past week, and so I would not affect that. I would not expect that affects their seeding
And Oklahoma
much,
lost
if at
to a
all.
good team too, by the way.
Yeah.
And in the Big 12, they I think the one thing, and they talked about I believe quite a bit on the telecast, and they were talking about Oklahoma's strength of schedule. I mean, they beat most likely the number 1 seed in Tennessee this year. They played I think the number 9 overall toughest schedule in all of college baseball. So, and that's non-con schedule. You throw the Big 12 in there, and it's probably just it's absurd. So, let's say they get to 7. So that means if they win, I want people to understand this. They're probably going to host a super. What would be
They would
very
host a
cool
super at that point.
and very smart. Very smart. What would be smart is for Oklahoma to host the regional in Bricktown and to host the supers in Bricktown. That would be the smart thing to do, because you would get the Oklahoma City crowd. You would get the people that want to go out to eat and then go to a baseball game at night. You would get all the OU fans. Some OU fans would come in just to hang out in downtown Oklahoma City from around the state. To me, that's a smart thing to do, especially the super. If you get into the super, you get out of the regionals and you're hosting a super regional, Josie, look me in the eye. Don't do it at LD Mitchell. It is not big enough. You do not want 4,000 people showing up there and then rolling over them, flipping over to LSU or Mississippi State and seeing 20,000 or Arkansas or whatever. That's not Tennessee. Like, they all have way bigger stadiums. Go to Bricktown, showcase the fact that you live and your university is within a stone's throw of one of the top 20 biggest cities in the United States, and use it.
I think you have a case. I will say this. Counterpoint.
Go for it.
Packed out L. Mitchell would get rowdy, and it would be awesome. If you got people out on the berms with their picnic blankets, not just out behind the outfields, but down the first and third base line. Like, if you get that venue really, really stacked up, I think environment wise, that is far
better
superior.
than a 10,000, 12,000 see Bricktown ballpark.
Yes. I think that is superior in my eyes.
Have you ever been there when it's, have you ever seen an OU
Yes,
crowd
of
when it's
course.
okay. In Bricktown, those things are fun, man.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, we will never have seen L. Mitchell as
Probably not.
jam-packed as it will be this weekend, which I'm very, very intrigued to see what that looks like, because I think it's going to be cool. But I
They
do
got to
think
do something with that stadium, by the way, going to the SEC. They have to.
Yeah, they need to. Well, I say they need to expand. People got to show up first. You got to give them a reason to expand.
That's fact.
You got to give them a reason to expand. But certainly that field needs. I've said it before, man. I hate the fact that it's turf. Maybe it's the traditionalist in me. At least put some real dirt out there. It's all carpet right now.
Really?
Oh yeah, did you not know that?
I did not, because the last time When did they start doing that? That was just a couple of years ago then, right?
No, it's
How long ago is that?
it's been a while.
I have never paid attention to that when I watch the games.
Hmm. All
Never paid
carpet.
attention to that. Wow, like that, well, dude, I've never paid attention to that. I just, in my mind, I've always sat there and went, man, that's immaculate. How did they do that? Like, I was, that's what I've always thought. Like, how did they
Nope,
do
it's
that?
that would be turf. That would be turf.
Wow,
But
okay.
no, I think
Okay.
this will be a cool weekend. Uh, you get Dale Mitchell packed out. Hopefully, get some folks some $2 beers. Watch things get rowdy, and hopefully, I think the home field advantage not only of having the crowd behind you, Brandon, but I think this gets undersold because it matters a lot in baseball. It's just being familiar with the dimensions of your ballpark. There is a very
No,
legitimate
that's true. That's true.
there is a
Yeah.
very legitimate home field advantage in just knowing
How the
the
ball's gonna bounce. Yep.
layout
Yep.
of your ballpark. That is something that you are much more attuned to, if you will, than the opposition. And so that's going to benefit Oklahoma significantly. The bats got to show up, and I think they will. Based on what I've seen from this team over the last month, I'm willing to write off what happened in the Big 12 championship game against Oklahoma State as an aberration. I think the bats will be hot. I like the Sooners coming out of the Dale Mitchell regional. I think they
I
hold serve on
yeah.
their home field. What happens in the supers, Lord knows. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I definitely think the Sooners can and will hold serve on their home field and defend their turf, quite literally, in the regional.
Fair enough. Okay. Let's roll over into recruiting.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's talk some football recruiting real
Hey,
quickly.
Omarion Robinson's not OV in Georgia anymore.
He is not.
How about that?
Weird. I was just there seeing him, how you set that up. Um,
I
I
know what I'm
went,
about, son.
yeah, yeah, fair enough. So I went and saw Marion Robinson this week. Just yesterday, actually. Wait. Yes, yesterday. Just trying to remember what day I showed up to the lake now. Um, and I gotta tell you, I like OU a lot. I do. I do. So Georgia, he's going, okay. So I believe he's going to Arkansas. I mean,
Arkansas,
right.
June 7th. That's his official date there.
Correct.
It,
But
it was going to be Georgia this coming weekend.
it is not
That's off the calendar.
correct. All right. So here's how it lays out. June 7th is Arkansas. Um, Oregon now is June 14th.
Well.
Correct. I think LSU is this coming weekend, this next weekend on the
That makes
31st.
sense.
And Oklahoma is the 21st. Oklahoma gets the last stab at Omarion Robinson.
You like that,
So,
don't you?
yes. And I've got them in notes over here, but I don't want to look down at my phone the whole time I'm talking to y'all. So, um, anyways, just talking to him. Look, I'll say this. I asked about Georgia, and let's just say some things kind of fell through. And Georgia was the program that Oklahoma was more worried about than everybody else. When that fell through, I talked to a source not associated with anybody that's recruiting, just kind of really glued in and tied into the whole situation. And they said, and I quote, when Amarian Robinson dropped the top four, they said it was more like the top Oklahoma, 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 Oklahoma. And those are the top four. And so that's kind of how everybody feels about it right now. Now, let me temper that a little bit for you guys. The official visits are going to mean something. He grew up an Arkansas Razorback fan. I want everybody to make sure they understand that.
Shocker there, huh?
Yeah, state of Arkansas. My wife's from Arkansas. I totally understand it. Lived in Arkansas for 5 years. They love their hogs. I The other thing I will say about that though is that he's also very well aware of the dire situation there.
And it is dire.
And it's dire. And he understands that there is a good chance that that staff isn't going away. But he's going to tip the cap to the in-state team. Mm-hmm. He's going to visit them. He's going to give them a fair shake. That's number one. LSU is the other one that you have to look at and you go, okay, why, how, all of that. Their defense has been atrocious the last few years. It's been a sieve. It looked like OU back in 2018, to be honest. In 2019, it just did. And, well, 27. Well, no, it was 2018, 2019. 2020 is when it started getting decent. But they still produce. And obviously, Coach Raymond has been known to put out defensive backs in the NFL. There's a lot of defensive backs in the NFL from LSU. They're selling that, and they're selling that hard. So that's number two. Oregon is so far away. It just, if you know, and one of these days we will discuss his family background. And it's been a very trepid upbringing. Like, just, it's a story that needs to be told. But now is not the time, if that makes sense. So having said that, I just think Oregon's a long ways away. But he loved the environment. He says, beautiful up there. They also put out a lot of NFL, defensive backs, NFL players. And obviously, Dan Lanning is notorious for being one of the better defensive minds in college football. So he really, really likes it up there. I just get the sense that distance is going to play in, leaving mama, leaving dad, leaving uncle, leaving the rest of his family is going to be very hard. So now that brings us to Oklahoma. And why Oklahoma is viewed as the leader. And I'll just quote him, because this quote when he said it, he had this big grin ear to ear. And I said, so, okay, last but not least, what about Oklahoma? Like, why Oklahoma? He goes, Coach Hall and Coach Venables. He goes, but more importantly, and this literally what he said, more importantly, every time I show up to Norman, there's something in my gut that says this just feels right. And when a kid says that, and I want everybody to understand that he was visiting Oregon on the 21st for the longest time. He takes an unofficial to Oklahoma and goes, nope, they are my last visit. So you all take that for what you want, but I want you to understand it's not going to be as easy as you think it's going to be, but there's a reason to be super optimistic if you're Oklahoma as we speak on May 25th or 26th or 27th, whenever you watch this podcast.
Let me ask you this, Brandon. Let me ask you this. If not Oklahoma, then who? Who are you most worried about of the three other schools in the picture?
The fact that I can't just come up and say it tells you all you need to know. But I guess I'll say LSU. And then probably, if it wasn't for distance, I would sit there and say Oregon without question. Without question.
And that's the big hurdle, is just the distance factor. Because,
there's no straight flight there, like from Little Rock. So you got to go to Dallas, and then you got to go to, there are a few to Eugene. There's a few from Dallas to Eugene. But you got to catch it at the right time. And they're not every day. And so that's the issue. So it's like you're changing flights like 3 times just to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the issue. That's the issue. And another recruitment that I've been privy to, Lamont Rogers just randomly FaceTimed me the other day. And
really?
Yes. And so we talked. It was the second time in 2 weeks that's happened, by the way. And I'm starting to like Oklahoma's chances. I really am. Oklahoma gets the last visit as long as Florida State and LSU don't come in. They're fighting for that last weekend in June, but he wants to be done. He literally within 7 days of his last official visit, he says, I want it done. I'm done. And that's the same way with Omarion Robinson. A week after his OU visit, he's announcing. Ironically, both of those guys could potentially announce at the 5-star Rivals event. Both are invited, both are signed up. We will see if that takes place. Something we're discussing behind the scenes with them, their families, and obviously Rivals. So that's also potentially in the cards. So I just like Oklahoma for Lamont Rogers, and I had to do this fact or fiction thing, Parker, with Marshall Levinson today, and it was, would Oklahoma land 2 top 100 offensive linemen in 2025? He said fiction, I said fact, but I said let me fact, but I'm very cautious about that because NIL is going to play a major part of this. Oklahoma's going to play the game. And the good news for them is they get Babalola, Haywood, and Rogers on their last visits.
Relevant
They get,
point.
and
I've had a
they're in a
future
good spot
cast
for
in for
season.
Lamont Rogers to Missouri since March, just
Mm-hmm.
because some of the things I
They're
was.
still a big player, by the
Oh
way.
yeah,
Get
and some of the
closer.
things I was hearing at that time, in particular, was like, okay, like Missouri's the school to beat here for the time being. If you've taken note of some of the social media activity from the OU coaches this week, it's evident that they're not huge fans of the Missouri Tigers. And that's starting to they're starting to show that, right? Like
Yes.
that's starting to become more clear in such things as the tweet from DeMarco Murray where Curtis Lofton is up there in Chase Daniels' grill. Um, I I don't want to say too much on that whole deal because a lot of the sourcing would be very traceable. And so I don't want to say more than the sources that I have on this particular matter would be comfortable with me saying. But let's just say there's some stuff that has gone on behind the scenes that has kind of fueled that. And OU has more incentive than ever, at least in the minds of the people within the Switzer Center, to really stick it to Missouri and not to
Yeah.
back off from battles like the one they're waging right now for not only Lamont Rogers, but Michael Fasusi.
And
So,
Babalola.
and Babalola, although I think with Babalola, there are a couple other schools that I'm watching closely in that one. He's OV into
Alabama.
Michigan. He's OV into Auburn.
Auburn, not Alabama,
Yeah,
excuse me.
those
Yeah,
those two
Auburn. Yep.
schools will have a say. Stanford, I don't
Mhm.
really see them sticking around just because who wants to go to the West Coast to play for a school that's in the ACC? It's no knock at Stanford. It's just the situation.
Yeah.
Great school, terrible, terrible circumstances right now.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think this O line class is going to be actually pretty good. I don't want to get everybody's hopes up too much, just because we all know how NIL has just completely changed the game. And until they get, so we all have seen how it's been voted to where everything can go in house and all that. The schools can now, I guess, pay players through NIL now, but it's not it's not set in rules yet. I think that's the thing. So until that is, you have to be collective wise, and there's um there's no cap yet. And I think that's probably the next step they're moving towards. So that makes NIL kind of the wild card with Fasusi, with Rogers, with Haywood, with Babalola. But I said this in the truth factor fiction thing with Marshall Levinson on Rivals. You can go to OU Insider and see it. It's pinned up there at the top. OU is treating the offensive line in 25 like they did defensive line in 24, meaning the pockets are deep and they're willing to play ball. And when Oklahoma's like that, they haven't lost very many of those battles, by the way. They just don't, because at that point you have relationships and NIL. So there's that. Real quickly, Parker, before we go, Chris Hardy. Let's discuss that real quick. Ole Miss.
How many spots does Ole Miss have?
I freaking don't know. I don't even know if OU is going to scholarship him, to be honest with you. So I think it's more NIL than anything else. I don't know how this works, how this is working. I don't know. Like I can't get it really confirmed either way on anything. They're kind of banking on Zach Alley's relationship. And OU is kind of Johnny come lately in that. He visited Oklahoma. It sounds like Oklahoma is in a decent spot. I know UCF is trying to make a swing there as well. So it seems like it's a 3-team battle. How is Oklahoma pushing there? Do they have room to make scholarship room for him? Like there's questions there. And that's why an announcement was supposed to be made literally Friday or today, and it wasn't. So I don't know. I just don't know what's. I would love to sit here and tell our listeners and our viewers how I really felt, but I really think it all depends on how hard Oklahoma really cares to push. And that's just it. Like, do they want him bad enough to go toe to toe with Ole Miss? They can, they will, and they can beat Ole Miss. I'm pretty positive OU has more money, but do they want to? When they can just go save that money for another big name in the portal later on down the line. And on top of that, maybe an offensive lineman in the 25 class or two. Like that's the world Oklahoma's living in right now. They're treating it just like a professional football does with the salaries. So there's that. All right. I think I could do it, right?
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else that's terribly pressing at the moment. It's starting to feel like the off season.
I talked a lot at the end, guys, and I'm sorry because I was the one that did all the visiting of the recruits this weekend. Notoriously, Parker has been the one that's been visiting, and I just sit back and let him go. But he let me cook, so I appreciate it because I had some pretty interesting factoids that we needed to discuss on
If
this
you
one.
got the sauce, cook with it.
Yep. So, all right. Obviously, we want to thank you guys for watching this. Go to
Or
OU
listening.
Insider, sign up and listening on whatever podcast platform you're on. Thank you guys. Make sure that you are subscribed on the podcast platforms. Make sure you're subscribed on the YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to OU Insider because the next 2 months are going to be hot and heavy camps, official visits, SEC spring day, SEC spring meetings, SEC media days, fall camps kicking off. Like this is going to be an awesome next 2 months. So make sure you're on OU Insider because the SEC is here. Oklahoma is ready to kick it off in football, and we're here to make sure you guys stay on top of everything in the 25 class and the 26 class and the 27 with the SEC, with fall camp, with the off-season workouts, all that information's over there on OU Insider VIP. Plus, if you don't want to do that, obviously we'd love to have you there over there. It's $9.95 a month, $9.95 for a whole year. That means you would get it all the way up to this point next year in 2025, which would get you all the way through the season, all the official visits, all the junior days, the bowl, the signing days, all that type of stuff. But if you don't want to do that, it is what it is. And come give us a try right here on this YouTube channel because we've got whatever you want, we have softball, baseball, basketball, recruiting, all of it right here on OU Insider YouTube. All right. For Parker Thune, my name is Brandon Drum. You guys have a blessed Memorial Day weekend. We will see you guys later.